All right. It's Deadman's Tome podcast with your host, Mr. Deadman, SK, and Becky. What happened to Becky? She's gone.
Kidnapped, I believe.
Kidnapped?
Well, come on, don't pretend like you didn't have your midgets behind that.
Well, she was telling people about it. You can't just go around telling people that Mr. Deadman runs a brothel of midgets in his backyard. That's not very kosher, man. That's not good for business, man. Police get kind of curious. Attorneys get curious. Like, what do you mean there's a brothel? An illegal, legal, I don't know. Actually, my attorney's telling me to shut up right now. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I thought it would be good for business.
Oh, well,
it's, advertising.
But SK,
what do I know? I don't know that business at all.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize maybe not all advertising is good advertising.
Could be.
Like Gillette shaming men. Is that good advertising?
Yeah. I think it's gone not as well as they thought it would.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Oh, better yet, are you aware of this? Apparently there's a razor brand for women called Billy, and they use body positivity, not body positivity, their ad for a razor for chicks to shave was promoting not shaving. So they were showing all these women in all natural, armpit hair and hair everywhere. SK, these videos. This was an ad for TV, and you had this black chick with a fro on top and a fro at the bottom, just coming out of the bikini. I'm like, how is this? How is this okay for TV?
And how is it selling your product?
Yeah, right? I mean, what's the message here? Don't shave? Okay. Well, I don't need your razor then.
That's right.
Don't need your razor for that.
And Colin Kaepernick is back in the news for making Nike pull an entire shoe line because it had the original Old Glory flag on the heel.
Oh, can't have that. Can't have anything
patriotic. It was already shipped to retailers, and they pulled it all the way back.
Nope, can't have that. Can't have anything like that. Nope. Got to shame everything.
Hey.
Oh, by the way, I think we have a guest.
Would we happen to have a guest tonight?
We do. We do. The one and only Miss Lee Beard. How's it going?
Hey, how are y'all doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I actually pronounced the guest name right for once. Look at that.
Good thing about it only being a few letters.
It's a tough one to mess up, Jesse.
I know. Lee Beard. How can I mess up that one? I don't know. Maybe it's because I fear the beard. Maybe I fear your father. Maybe that's why I don't want to mispronounce. Oh man.
Yeah, it's a fantastic hashtag.
It is. Oh. All right. Well, for those who don't know who you are, I always start this off with all my guests. Who are you, and what do you do? So where you want to take it, you go with it.
Alrighty. Well, technically my name is Brianna Lee Beard. I write under Lee Beard, though. I'm just an author. I mean, I wrote, I guess, an author. Yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of us feel that way. A lot of us feel that way at times.
It's still, I don't know if it's still sunk in quite yet. But I write science fiction mostly. I have one book out so far, Radio Nowhere. The second book in that series is coming out later this year. It's post-apocalyptic. Basically, if The Stand met Lord of the Flies, is the best way I can describe it.
I like that already.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to research and write. I'll definitely give it that.
Those are two of my all-time favorites.
Oh, awesome!
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've always been a big Stephen King fan, and so when I was probably about 12, I think, or so. We watched the miniseries at my uncle's house, and I fell asleep that night with the idea of, what would it be like if I were in that situation, and what would it be like if that entire situation was nothing but children?
Be
and
nightmarish.
It just kind of rolled from there.
Be horrible.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, children are terrible.
Yeah. I mean, just the moment.
Except for mine too.
Oh, well, of course you'll say that. But just even the moment you turn away, even with the parental supervision, you could be in the same room. You turn away, the brothers and sisters are fighting each other. For little stuff, for like Play-Doh or Legos or whatever. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Or just because.
Just because. That definitely happens. Hell, one morning my daughter just woke up, right? The kids gather at the table. The first thing my daughter does, totally unprovoked, takes my son's bowl of cereal away from him. Just because. She had her own, but what'd she do? She took his and swapped it out for hers. Just because. And I'm right there in the room watching the whole thing. I'm watching the whole freaking thing. So imagine.
Reminds me of a. Okay.
All right. So, so how long have you been writing?
Well, goodness gracious. Honestly, I think that the first book that story that I quote unquote wrote, I dictated to my mom. I was probably about 4 or 5. I could barely even write properly, but that one was a little derivative. I had seen The Great Escape because my dad and I like to watch old movies, and I essentially just turned all of the main characters of The Great Escape into dogs escaping from a pound. So, I've been at this for. I've hopefully my material has progressed a little bit from that, but I've been at it for some time.
Okay, that's good though. But you start off young as a little girl writing and dictating it to your mom. Okay, that's cool. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure even then your writing ability was much better than maybe some other people you've seen. I'm sure I'm sure you've seen some affidavits, maybe some legal documents that read like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you pass the first grade?
I'm actually kind of the proofreader at our office for legal documents sometimes. So it's definitely, there's a big difference between, legal documents and fiction, but it can be interesting to see the scope of things.
Really?
Just a smidge.
Well, Kevin Landau should definitely use a proofreader. That's for damn sure. That joke is for Nick Ricada there. He would get that one. All right. Oh man. But so yeah, you start off young, and your influences. Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned Stephen King. Any other influences?
Oh goodness. Let's see. I just blanked on his name. That is embarrassing. The book Earth Abides was another big influence of the Nowhere series, because it just, again, plague wipes out the whole world. I like Into the World type things, which is a little dark, but also very. It's nice. It's fun to speculate about those kind of things, I think.
Yeah, that's a genre that seems to be always in fashion.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's a lot more of it in the last 5 years, but in movies and TV and all that kind of thing. But truly, it has been around, for a very long time, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. People can't get enough of seeing everybody die.
Definitely not, right? And I believe the author of that book, Earth Abides, is George R. Stewart.
Thank you. I knew it was a George, and I just blanked on the rest of it. I know it wasn't Martin though.
No. But post-apocalyptic. Okay, so I guess now is a good time to dig into what your first book, your current book right now, Radio Nowhere, is about. So tell us about that. Well,
so plague wipes out 99 point some odd of the population, but almost all of the people that it kills are adults, leaving only children, teenagers, and this one old man broadcasting from a radio station in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, at a college there. He just kind of, sends out messages of hope and all that. And so the three main characters, Zach, Millie, and Gina, they're all spread out across America, kind of just journey toward nowhere. And so there's a lot of interesting, I guess, bumps in the road that happen along the way that are kind of well, I don't want to give too much away.
Oh, you don't want to give too much away, but I definitely like a tease. I like to.
There's a tiger.
Well, duh.
Obviously, I mean, what else? What else do I put in a post-apocalyptic book?
Yeah.
Is the extinction event? Is it sudden? How gradually does it build up, and how quickly does it kill off the population?
It's relatively sudden. I actually did a lot of research on various diseases and whatnot, and I found one, or I kind of cobbled together one that was actually relatively plausible, which in itself is kind of scary. But it kind of probably knocks off the world in about 2.5 months, just because you get an airborne virus that's powerful enough, it can do some damage.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that spread. Now, but this virus, it only affects adults?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, let me rephrase. It not only affects adults, but for some reason the only survivors are children and teenagers. So there are, it did kill off kids and teens, but for some reason just the only survivors of it seem to be children, teens, and like I said, the one old man.
Okay, which would leave all the teenagers and kids left alone. No one to watch them. So
Correct.
Man, think of the anarchy, man. I mean, we already had teenagers with down in Tide Pods, like was fun on YouTube. Imagine what they're
that's a good point. Teenagers don't really know how to do much.
No. Because when I started writing this, I still was a teenager, and so there was that every now and again I would just stop and go, wow, I do not want, like, I wouldn't want to be in charge. I especially wouldn't want some of the people that I know to be in charge. Like there's a lot of growing up that happens in your teens, and I think it's very interesting to explore what happens when you're forced to grow up even faster.
Yeah, that's true. And if it's this day and age of teens that are going to be left alone to their own devices, according to studies I've seen, it doesn't look too good. There was one, millennial dads versus baby boomer dads, and it's bad. It's bad. I'll just read you a little bit here. Millennial dads are less likely than boomer counterparts to be able to change a car tire on the side of the road, unblock a toilet or sink, reset a tripped circuit breaker, or even open a stuck pickle jar.
Oh my word.
They don't.
Oh my word.
I wish I was making this up. But it goes like, but even with something as simple as opening a jar of pickles with their hands, only 59% of millennials would attempt. Oh
goodness.
To eat, it's not like, wow. I'm kind of gasping here. I mean,
yeah. When you take away Google, like there's, you have to start going back to old school books and the like, and especially if you've never navigated a library without even just like a computer database, like it definitely, removing technology definitely handicaps people.
Well, so that's an interesting point, because there would still be libraries, but no card catalogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it's like, and do the kids even know how to read? I mean,
the smaller ones probably not, actually.
So
wow,
that's
one of the things I really loved about The Stand was the little vignettes of all the weird ways people died that had nothing directly to do with the plague.
Mm-hmm. The secondary kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
did you
covered
do a
some
lot of
that.
research on that?
I did actually. And again, it's when you it gets even more morbid when you take into consideration how many things that or how many times that parents save their kids' lives on a daily basis without even small things, without even realizing it. Even just like eating expired food. I mean, just there's so many things that can go horribly wrong if you don't have the correct knowledge. I don't go into that a whole lot because the book's already a bit of a downer. I didn't want to be like, oh, and also think about all of these small children that can't survive on their own. Like I tried to keep away from the really dark stuff, but no, it's
right.
It is definitely very chilling to think about.
You would have kids killing each other, forming cliques, and oh man, I mean,
and
just
no
think
doctors.
high school. Yeah, no doctors, and it would essentially be high school, middle school with no principals or teachers or anyone to.
And guns.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just unlimited use of basically anything that weapons that you have to be trained to use. They just there you go.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah,
kind of.
In a way, there are definitely some there's some fun scenes that I enjoyed. If there's no policeman to tell you not to drive your go-kart down the middle of the road or or whatever, it can be interesting.
Oh yeah, man! Imagine like no laws, you could do whatever. What? Some teenager's gonna arrest you?
Yeah.
Come on.
Probably wouldn't work out so well.
No. But then who's working the plants? Oh.
Nobody.
Shit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Who's
that's one of the interesting things about a post-apocalypse is nobody let me rephrase that. Very few people know how to make anything from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Very true. There's a boy who actually is diabetic, type 1 diabetic, and
man.
Yeah, that was interesting to research. My younger sister actually has type 1 diabetes, but she was not diagnosed until after I wrote the first book, which is kind of interesting. But you
gave it to her.
Yeah, it definitely put things like majorly into perspective. Because when you first start writing it, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's like it's a big deal. But I didn't really realize how big of a deal until firsthand experience. Like, oh. Wow, that if insulin's even left out in the heat too long, like it starts to degrade. Like there's a lot of factors there that kind of set me back a little bit in the second book as far as the writing speed goes, because there was just a lot more to research.
Yeah.
Okay.
My ex-wife has Addison's disease, and she has to take a small amount of cortisone every day to stay alive. Mm-hmm. It's not it's not a huge amount. It's not a therapeutic type of dose. It's just a replacement for what her body isn't producing. But if her supply is disrupted when she runs out, she's dead in like a week.
Right. Yeah, no, you just step back a second and think about all of the the medical advancements and medications that we have access to now that would all just go away if everything were to go kaput, if there was nobody else to make them.
And beyond that, even if there's still a supply in the pharmacies all over the place, but what if you don't know what the right thing is?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then you're going to have people like certain teenagers, I guess, form bands of whatever, certain tribes, and they will take all those medications and hoard them. And try to like sell them for something, I guess cash or whatever it is they find.
I don't know.
Yeah, like bartering system, I would think, would definitely come back around into fashion.
Yeah.
It would all depend on what's scarce besides drugs that you can trade for, right?
That's interesting. And of course, now let me get some perspective here. Now, in your book, is this happening worldwide, or is it kind of local?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So everywhere, even in China and Japan, Brazil, it's all like
Precise.
okay, all right, just kids.
The first scene opens in an airport because our patient zero, we kind of follow him for a while through the airport, kind of infecting everybody. So, yeah,
Cool.
it's everywhere.
Was it started by an environmentalist?
National Geographic photographer got into something in photographing a remote village. There was just a weird chemical reaction, and it all just kind of spiraled from there. Technically, it originated with a mold in a rice bin, but I don't put that in there because they don't need to know
Right.
you don't need to know every single detail of it to make a good story.
Yeah,
way to go, Nat Geo. Way to go.
Yeah. Thanks, National Geographic.
Now who's going to read your magazines?
I follow them on Twitter. I like them a lot.
All right. So what's the so you did a lot of research for this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
What are some of the bizarre, interesting things you just think has learned in that process?
Oh goodness. Well, I mean, I've learned a lot about survival in general. There things that you wouldn't even consider. For example, if you don't have a refrigerator, but something has to be kept at a cool temperature, which in the South, how easy that totally is. Running streams, you can submerge things in running streams, and it'll keep it at a pretty consistent temperature. Or you can bury things if you dig down deep enough. I think it's like. And I don't quote me on this because I could be completely wrong, but I think it's like 10 feet down. It's pretty consistently 60-something degrees. I'm not sure.
About that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And year round, too.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Mm-hmm. Just pretty consistently across the board, which I thought was really interesting. Because you'd think if it got colder, it would, but no, it's pretty So consistent.
Why don't we just live underground then? I mean, that's so much cooler.
Seriously.
Shit.
Well, some places have a high water table.
Yeah, that's our problem. Unfortunately.
You start digging down, and it fills up with water. Which, interestingly enough, for us another survival tip: how to get water.
Mm-hmm.
Dig.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotta go far enough. But no, that's why nowhere around here where I live has any basements or anything like that.
Same here in Houston.
Which is why all of our neighbors are outside watching when tornadoes come instead of trying to get to safety.
Yeah. Because what's the point, right?
Yeah.
I don't even remember what I'm supposed to do when a tornado comes. Just not be in a room with windows or just hold on to something. I don't even know.
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's just a small windowless interior room or something like that.
I watched Twister.
But there was
I should be able to survive. Just strap onto something that's reinforced into the ground. That's all, right?
There you go. Though, just don't hop into a bathtub unless it is fully secured into the ground. Because I read an article of I think she was 75-year-old woman who rode through actually physically through a tornado in a bathtub because it was not well connected. She was fine though. She landed perfectly unharmed, but. What a story!
I'm waiting for the problem. I'm waiting for the problem for that.
Tornado in a bathtub. That sounds like an album title.
Right? That sounds like fun.
An old folk song in the making.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, what else did you learn? I'm liking this.
Yeah, it was a lot of interesting sort of. Well, I became a bit of a germaphobe. I'm not going to lie. After just reading all the various ways that bacteria can be transmitted and how long things can live on surfaces depending on the type of virus and whatnot, it's crazy. Even if if a sick person depending on the virus or disease or whatever, but if they sneeze on their hand and then touch the magazine rack at say a grocery store, well, depending on the virus, that bacteria could still be there a couple days later. So it's just, I started carrying hand sanitizer everywhere.
Now, wait. So the 5 second rule, is
No.
just made up nonsense. Then is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
It's
But here's the thing too. From what we're having worked at a psych facility, it's not a prison per se, but kind of sort of practically, right? Like Germ X, stuff like that, it starts losing its effectiveness. Like it doesn't.
Oof.
It stops killing some of the germs.
Yeah. That's why antibiotic resistant bacteria is becoming such an issue. Of course, that also goes along just the overprescribing of antibiotics. But after the germs are smart, for lack of better terminology. They learn, they adapt, they can figure out ways to outlast, because that's kind of the whole microevolution.
The products that advertise killing 99.9% of bacteria just leave the real monsters behind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's that 0.001% bacteria that you should be worried about.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's where we're going to get that MRSA and things like that. God, that sounds horrible. Okay. See, I'm digging this. This is fun. I'm learning survival skills.
So what about behavioral stuff? Because that would have played a big factor.
Yeah. So that was interesting to dig into, because everybody processes grief differently. There's general things that pretty much everybody experiences, but I tried to work the spectrum on that. Some people are just in complete denial about it. Other ones.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
You said you worked the spectrum on that? Like, did you do research on autists too, or is it?
Oh,
sorry.
Let me rephrase. I tried to I guess portray the various types of processing and coping, just with each of the different characters. Some people just flat out lose their minds. They can't process it. Like, they can't cope with it. There are other people, unfortunately. But it is definitely, it's interesting because younger kids, I did a lot of research on how especially much smaller children cope in grief situations, which is something I actually I noticed with one of my younger like a younger relative of mine lost a parent, and it was interesting talking to her, because she was just just very pragmatic about it, very just nonchalant almost. This was very recently after the passing. It was just, he was very just, mom's not coming back anymore. And it's like, oh wow, that's there was no sadness. It was weird. Obviously she was sad, but it was just interesting how easily she was able to talk about it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It was just.
So what kind of age range was she?
I think she was 6 or 7, so smallish, or maybe 5. I'm not exactly sure. This was a little while ago, but it was just very pragmatic about it.
Little kids are super plastic, in their minds. Their minds are very moldable and adaptable in those early years. So that doesn't surprise me a ton. It takes a while to really get, fixed into personality and behaviors and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much just growing that, obviously there's so much growing that happens, but even just from year to year of even just in the teenage years, I did a lot of digging on that, and it was just it's just fascinating. Just people development in general is just fascinating.
Oh, definitely,
especially in relation to that.
Definitely, and yeah, that's spot on. With kids, they are very resilient. They will adapt to their situation like that. Because think of it.
Oh, a great example in fiction is Newt on Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
That is,
and she was like, she just dealt with it, right?
Yeah, just It's like when you see a toddler running and then they trip and fall and bounce off the ground and then just kind of look around and hop up and keep going. It's kind of that emotionally almost.
Yeah, very much. And they often look to grown-ups to know how they should react.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed this when my girls were little, that they'd fall and they wouldn't know, am I hurt? Am I supposed to cry? What am I supposed to do here? And then, so we just started going, "Oh, you're cool. It's cool. Get up. Brush it off. You're good. Keep going."
Yeah.
And I'd go, "Okay."
It was very interesting to theorize, how different kids would handle even just a situation like just falling down and hurting themselves if there was nobody around to kind of gauge the response of. It's just
when they don't have that guidance of like whose behavior am I supposed to mold? Like how do I figure this out? They will figure it out on their own. And it's, I mean, they might cry because of the pain, natural response, but
right.
They will quickly get over it. At least some of them will. Some won't. Some handle it in different ways, of course. But yeah, I mean, even with my line of work, what I do, a day job, of course, I talked about this before. I try to be kind of like discreet about it, but I talk with kids and families. Then the kids go through things. Sometimes they're going through like abusive, neglectful things in the household, and they talk about all sorts of stuff, right? But when they talk about it, especially when they're little kids, like 5 years old, 6 years old, they talk about it just so matter-of-factly, like it's just their life. That's it. So what if their mom's doing drugs? So what if their mom's using meth? Big deal.
It's like they don't quite.
Yeah.
They don't quite just, I guess, grasp the magnitude of it. Just kind of like, oh, this is just how it is.
Yeah, normal is just whatever you're used to.
Yep. It's
And did you find anything? What was your take on kids who are more likely to survive compared to others?
Ooh, that's a good question.
was there any common thread there?
I didn't find a there's not a whole lot of studies on that sort of thing. How kids would bounce back and all that. But no, just the characters as I was writing them, there were definitely there's one that's Gina is very I guess not hardened, I guess is the right word, just kind of came from a bad sort of situation and just kind of is used to dealing with just bad stuff that goes on. And so it's kind of just like just another day when, the world goes crazy. And if anything, it's almost a relief because it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, then I don't have to deal with, these people anymore. I can just go about and do whatever. The ones that were far more, I guess, emotional. Emotional is not the right term. I don't know.
Sensitive. Soy boys.
Sensitive. There you go. Yeah, the ones that are a little more in touch with their emotions and keep them a little more close to the surface. Do I would think definitely struggle harder in a situation like that. It's harder to come to terms with, and it's harder to get over because just there are some people that when bad things happen, they kind of tend to dwell on it and they kind of just get stuck in that hole, and it takes usually an outside force or an outside person to bring them out of that. Well, if there's nobody really around to do that, they just kind of get stuck in that cycle of going over and over and over in that. I actually have a section of vignettes, funny enough, that kind of an homage to The Stand,
Nice.
Where it just kind of shows, just how kids across, the continent are just kind of coping with everything, and how it all just sort of begins and whatnot, or not begins, how the aftermath, I guess is the correct term.
The beginning of the end, I guess, or just
there you go. And there was one that I wound up nixing because it was too dark, but I left one in there that essentially same kind of person, just very, very in touch with her emotions, very close to the surface. Usually you can tell is a more, I guess, weak-willed person, perhaps is the right term, that it just kind of winds up going off the deep end a little bit because, the if everybody you know dies in front of you and there's nobody else around, and you don't, you're so used to relying on other people, and you don't have the, I guess, the willpower to like muscle through it, it can be
right.
just, you can
Well,
kind of.
yeah. Well, there's there's the emotional side, and then there's the the more practical, the self-reliance, and the drive to figure shit out for yourself. And so what do you do when the soup cans are all empty? And then what?
Exactly. Or
right?
What do you do when your entire life has your parents have coddled or catered to you, like they've taken like care of you, but maybe to an almost like to the point that you really don't know how to do anything. There, I
open a pickle jar.
Open a pickle jar.
I knew some kids like that growing up, and I kind of just thought, well, how would they, like, how would they do that? Because especially in this day and age, when everything that you need to know, you can just pull out your phone and Google it if you have a question. Well, if that's all taken away from you.
Yeah, it's like the kids that would do well in this scenario would be the ones who actually paid attention to their boomer dad. The ones that actually paid attention and did the yard work and stuff.
Well, it's so. Can I tell a little story?
Sure.
Real briefly. So I used to go to this coffee shop, this little independent coffee shop. It was run by a woman we called Crazy Penny, because she was a little crazy, but she wasn't stupid. In fact, she actually sued Starbucks over their leasing practices in the town, and won a nice little sum.
Oh,
and we
okay.
and we were talking one time about well, we always talk about different things, and she was complaining about finding good help and how hard that was getting to be. It was getting worse every year practically, and she said something that has stuck with me, obviously. And she said, kids that grow up in happy families are no good to anybody.
Isn't that true in a way?
In a way, I mean, it's not a universal thing, but her point was exactly that, oftentimes kids who grow up in happy families are never required to do anything or figure anything out, or you develop any self-reliance
or have any artistic ability.
Right. Or athletic ability.
Yeah, right. There's always some sort of dysfunction there. Those athletes and the artists and the people who are able to do stuff. Man, that's interesting.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny that you mentioned the having the boomer, I guess, mentor, because actually thinking back on it, the characters that do the best all have that kind of, I guess, boomer mentor figure, or at least did before it all, before everybody died.
Okay.
So I think it's so important to have, even like older, relatives, or even just older like neighbors, or it's so important to have that generational, I guess, difference, I guess, just to be able to, I don't know.
Tribal knowledge.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, one thing I definitely want to ask you here is you mentioned your vignettes, but there's one that that you kind of pulled because it went too dark, went too far. What is too far for you as a creator?
Well, it's kind of it's an interesting balance, because I honestly, there's no topic that I as a writer would shy away from necessarily. I definitely wouldn't. If it's in the story, it has to serve a purpose. Like I will never write anything gratuitously. However, because this book centers around children and teenagers, and I kind of knew that my audience would probably be younger. I didn't want to put anything in there that would just scar them, I guess. Especially when it's everybody. There's already so much in there that I've been told is frightening, in a good way, like not too far or anything, but I didn't want any parents coming after me.
Okay.
Well, unless they're boomer parents, you don't have much to worry about.
Yeah.
But no, there's one character that is trapped in a morgue, for example, in the complete darkness, because when the lights go out, you can't find anything. So that's like one that I've been told was frightening. There's a nightmare sequence. Like there are things in there that are heavy. There's heavy themes and heavy like horror aspects, I guess, because of the nature of the story. But I thought maybe, the one I pulled was just like a suicidal character that just it got a little. I was not in a great place when I wrote it, and so looking back on it, once I was able to step back from it, I went, maybe we don't put that in there. Maybe we pull that and keep it for some, horror anthology or something, and just keep that as separate from this.
Right. Have you ever been in absolute darkness?
Oh, just complete like darkness with no light or anything?
It was zero light.
I have actually a couple times in my life. There was one where I was actually at my grandmother's house, and she has this big old light pole outside of her house. She lives on, I think, 13 acres, just middle of absolutely nowhere. And the light pole went out one day. Just, I guess the lamp or the bulb went out. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And with all the lights out in the house, like I woke up to go to the restroom or something, and that level of darkness will stick with me for goodness, I don't know how long, because it was just, you can't even see your hands in front of your face. Like it's just it's
quite literally. There's nothing to be seen because there's not a single photon around.
Yes.
To illuminate anything, and it's chilling.
Especially when the your eyes are trying to like make out things and you can't, and so you start like essentially seeing shapes that aren't there and things that are moving when they aren't, and it just becomes this whole, your very own personal horror story.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Now, I know we only have I know you have limited time, so I definitely want to ask you before you have to go. How do you think you'll do in a post-apocalyptic situation?
Oh, good question.
That is a good question. I think now I would do a lot better than I would when I was younger. Now I've, especially doing all the research that I have, I feel like I would be a little more equipped. But even if not, even if I hadn't had the opportunity to do all that research, my dad was always really good at just kind of just prepping us for like just odd scenarios, just kind of like, hey, think of this through for a minute, just as like a mental exercise, like what would you do in XYZ situation.
Okay.
And so I feel like I would do okay. I don't think I would do as good as someone who, say, has like actual survival experience, practical uses. But I feel like I could at least, maybe make it a few years.
Okay. What sort of skills? Do you have? Survival skills.
Well, I can read. Like I can read how-to books. Like I know where libraries are. Exactly. I have a bookstore near my house, so I would first thing first go there and pick up as many books on survival as I can. Heck, I would just go raid the bookshelves in my house for that. But because if you have a book that tells you that details the skills necessary, then you're pretty set if you can, as long as you can translate what's on the page to actual practical use.
Yeah.
I've always been good, like working with my hands, like woodworking out of random little projects like that. So I've always been able to kind of MacGyver things. They don't always hold up very long, but they do for a little bit. So no. I mean, I'd like to think I'd be able to make it.
You ever heard of the Foxfire series of books?
I have not.
So somebody started many, many years ago, and now I'm looking, and there's at least 11 12 volumes now. Went around and collected all of this ancient, passed down knowledge of how to do shit, how to make things.
Oh, wow.
That people were still doing, like in Appalachia, up in the Appalachians, and say, so how do you make soap? How do you weave a basket? How do you? And it started collecting all of this knowledge that was just handed down from generation to generation, and they've made a series of books, and that is vital survival knowledge.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're picking up stuff at a bookstore or a library for how to do practical everyday stuff, that you could do a lot worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks. I'll definitely look into that. I definitely think the ability to recycle and reuse things around you would be a huge help, because, well, firstly, there's no garbage men anymore, so you can't exactly just throw it out. You got to learn how to deal with your own garbage.
If you're the only one in town, you sure can.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true, actually. You can even just pick a random house and use that as your personal trash can. Like, there's limitless options there.
Yeah. All right. So right on the screen, I have the Amazon page where people can go get Radio Nowhere, the Lee Beard's book here, and I see that it's temporarily out of stock. It looks like there was a surge.
There's a Kindle version.
There's a Kindle version as well.
Oh, the paperback. Okay, I'll look into that.
Paperbacks sold out. How could that happen?
That honestly, like that has never happened to me. But I'll definitely go check up and see if there's anything holding that up, because it shouldn't be out of stock. It's print on demand. Yeah, I'll look into that.
It should. Yeah, I imagine so. I think it's just temporarily.
Is it KDP or is it Ingram?
Looks like it's.
I went through Ingram Spark, but I also, just for ease of use, it does transfer over to. You can manage it on KDP as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it should never be out of stock.
Yeah.
Should never be. But what sort of a feedback or response have you received? Has anyone reached out to you about your book?
I mean, aside from just the friends and family that are like, "You did good job there, sweetie." I don't, it's hard for me to like acknowledge when I guess I'm halfway good at something. But I have gotten good feedback from strangers, which is nice. I never want anybody to ever hold back and be like, "Oh yes, A+ if they hate it." I welcome all kinds of feedback. But the one thing I have gotten some how could you on the ending, but it's okay. There's another one coming out, so hopefully that'll satiate.
And we're kind of
an irritating ending, but that sounds even better.
It does. It really does.
Because shit doesn't always turn out the way you want it to.
No, it does not.
Yeah.
I ended it on an I guess an interesting moment. It is honestly it's very flattering, maybe. I'm not sure what the correct word is here. I'm a writer searching for words. But my coworker got the book from me to read for herself, and her I think 11 or 12-year-old son picked it up and wouldn't give it back to her, and then just sat there and apparently read it in like one sitting, and then has been pestering her ever since about the next one, which is just really, really nice to hear as an author, especially like, when you go the indie publishing route, it can be really hard to drum up interest. And so it's little things like that are really, really meaningful, just to be able to, it's nice to know that I have the ability to affect people with my scenarios and words, if that makes any sense at all.
Absolutely. That's the whole point, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is. You can't put a price on that. That goes far.
Nope.
So do you have any idea when Radio Static is coming out?
I'm not exactly sure. It's probably going to be the fall before I get it. But I'm, I hit some setbacks that kind of pushed it back. But I'm definitely it's so close to being done. I'm a bit of a perfectionist in that I don't ever want to put out an inferior product if I can avoid it. So there were some things that I was like, I need to rework. I would rather do quality over quantity, although my hope eventually is to get to where I can at least drop like a book a year. Maybe one every 6 months. I've got my formula down, so here's hoping that.
Let me tell you something.
I would much rather turn out quality.
We talked to a lot of guests, right? There was one, I think a few authors we spoke with, they churn out a book or a short story, something a month. Month.
Yeah.
It's
prolific, man. Like that is just like, you have to be just a machine to do something like that. Like I met an author who does it like that, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Of course, that is her only job, which is
right.
Awesome that he was able to get to that point, though.
That's how you get able to do that. The guest I'm referring to is Lee Cutter. Leah.
Okay. Oh yeah,
Lee Cutter. Yeah.
Leah.
Yep. Churn out a story or a book once a month, and she would write every freaking day. That was her full-time job, though. Mm-hmm. So
3 to 4 hours a day.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's intense. It can be. It's crazy how many how many like very, very prolific writers there are, and it usually does come down to a formula, I've noticed, but not in a bad way. And just because it's a formula does not mean it's a bad story at all. It just means you have like a system, maybe is a better way to say it, instead of formula.
Right.
Well, and then of course, Radio Nowhere. I mean, that might be your only book out right now, but first of all, the cover looks great.
Thank you.
It's very highly rated on Amazon. It looks like you're getting a lot of purchases now since you have temporarily out of stock on something that's print on demand. So,
23 reviews. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's really neat because obviously I just, even if I had 0 reviews, just to be able to say, hey, I did that, I got that out there. It's a very motivating feeling, I guess, which I highly recommend anybody that's thinking about writing a book. Just do it. Like, I know that sounds easy for me to say, but seriously, do it. The feeling of accomplishment that you'll have at the end of it is so worth those long nights of, okay, but like, what am I trying to say here?
Okay. Do you have time for one more question? I know we're kind of.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
What is your favorite horror movie?
Oh goodness. Okay, this might be a minute. Because there's a lot of horror movies that I'm a bit of a fraidy cat sometimes.
Okay.
I saw, what was it? The one that I saw recently that really, I guess, made an impact was Hereditary, which that it was a couple of years ago, but I still think about that movie sometimes just because of how effective it was in, that there weren't like any. I don't like jump scares. I kind of think they're a little.
Yeah.
I think they can be effective, but yes, cheap. Yes, I think honestly, like they can be effective. However, if you're just, it makes me mad when I'm in a movie and I get a jump scare and I'm like, really? Come on, like. But didn't it? It was psychological horror. The Hereditary was, and it just. Even though I was, at the very end, literally sitting there looking through my fingers just in case I needed to cover my eyes, it was a very, it was a good one, and it was good also. I don't watch a lot of horror, but I do like the ones that I see.
When you said it, are you referring to the new one?
Yes, I liked the miniseries when I was younger. I thought it was pretty. Spooky. Obviously, looking back on it now, it's not tame per se, but it's definitely more tame compared to the movie, the recent movie, and then the book. Obviously,
I heard a rumor. I read something. I'm not sure if this is true or not. That the second half is gonna include some controversial scenes, and if they're referring to it, I think they are. That is. There's no way. There's no way they're putting that in the movie. There's no way they're putting the kids just having There's no way they're doing that.
I sometimes sit back and go, Steven, what were you thinking? Like, come on, man. It's like, it's the symbolism. I'm like, yeah, but nobody's going to pick up on the symbolism because they're going to be like, Steven, what are you doing? Like,
Yep.
sorry.
No.
That's
It's good. That's okay. Hey, on this podcast, on this show, we talk about, a lot of it, we talk about horror authors and things related. So none of it's monetized. It's like ever. Like, at least not ad friendly. Okay. So.
Yeah.
Because you can't talk about burying bodies.
There's nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose at all. Nothing to lose. Yeah, because when you when you start talking about burying bodies and ways to get rid of bodies, people don't want to run ads, I guess. That's a problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Big babies.
Well, it's been great having you, Miss Beard. I'm looking forward to your. Well, first off, I got to check out the Radio Nowhere. Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely. When I ask those teasing questions, they're really asking for me. So now I definitely got to get a copy. And then look forward to Radio Static. When that drops, you feel free to hop on the show anytime and we can talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'll definitely
have more time. SK and I can actually debate about who would last the longest in a post-apocalyptic situation. And
I would be interested to hear that one.
Who has the most skills?
I've actually done survival training, so
I've done 0.
Winning that one.
already got a 1-0 there.
Yeah. Oh, shit. All right, Miss Beard. I know you got to hop on the Rekieta show. Nick Rekieta, great guy. Love his stuff. Yeah, man.
Well, thank you so much. I will, and I really appreciate y'all inviting me onto the show. This was a lot of fun. Definitely next time I'll make sure that there's more time because I would like to hear that debate. Honestly.
Well, we'll have it.
That'd be
fun.
Don't
worry. We'll have it just for you.
We'll do it.
All right. Well, Miss Beard, we'll talk to y'all or talk to you later. For everyone else, I think now we can do the news articles we have.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I got to do my sound effect. Hold on. All right.
Potato chips?
All right. This one's nuts. It says cockroaches. Okay, which automatically makes this a weird story. Cockroaches are evolving to a point where they'll be nearly impossible to kill. And then my first reaction to that title is, how is that different?
I can't stand roaches.
Cockroaches.
I can't stand roaches.
Yeah.
I don't like roaches. When I see a roach in the kitchen, I just want to gas the whole fucking thing. I'm not even joking.
It says cockroaches are being born impervious to bug sprays. And it's happening fast.
Impervious to bug sprays.
Well, this is kind of like what we were just talking about, right? With the bacteria that survives. Like if you get a bug spray that kills 99% of the cockroaches, you just strengthen the gene pool. Because
what am I supposed to use? What's the alternative?
Shotguns, I guess.
Shotguns? just we shoot my kitchen with shotguns. If that's effective, I'll try it. Okay.
Yeah, apparently, cockroaches are developing resistance to multiple classes of insecticides at once.
At once.
Yeah.
So wait. If I'm hearing this right, did you also say that even the roaches that are not exposed to the to the poison, to the spray, that they're also developing an immunity to it or a resistance to it? Is that right?
Well, they definitely could through crossbreeding. If you have genes that helps you survive and you breed with some a person or cockroach who, doesn't have that, you can pass that gene down. So
Man.
yes, that's definitely possible.
That's scary. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. No, the day and age when roaches are resistant to poison, roach spray, that's a problem right there. No, man. God, Lee, and wait, SK, do you freak out when you see a roach?
We did not have roaches here in the lovely Pacific Northwest.
What? You don't have how?
No, I've never lived in a place that had roaches.
Oh, well, that's gonna change. That's
And
gonna
I've
change.
I've lived in places other than Seattle.
That-
I'm just saying I've never lived in a place with roaches.
I mean, have you lived in have you been? What about y'all's apartments? Like the hole in the wall apartments. I'm sure you can find a trailer with some roaches in there, right? It's not like Seattle's like roach free.
The really bad apartments, the worst apartments I should say that I lived in were in Sweden, and they were pretty damn clean anyway, being Sweden and all. And plus also that's fucking cold as shit up there during the winter, so unlikely. This is how you solve your cockroach problem. Move north. They don't like the cold.
But
they may survive chemicals, but not freezing temperatures.
damn it. Then I have to move up north. I you know what? I'll take it. I don't like snow. I don't like cold, but I will do that if that's what it takes.
It may be.
Man.
Oh, here's a little thing that help you sleep tonight. A female German cockroach can lay nearly 400 eggs in a lifetime.
That's too many. It's too many.
That's one female cockroach.
She's like a fucking Stargate. What the hell? How does it work? Is that just like one drop of like cockroach semen? Is that is that all it takes? And then just like 400 eggs in a lifetime?
Boom. Yeah.
Damn. No. And by the way, I've seen those eggs because what's on the screen here, these German ones, they're the hardest to get rid of. They're the hardest to get rid of. It's just so teeny tiny. They like hide everywhere. And like I said, if I see one, I spray the whole fucking kitchen. But they're eggs. They look like the size of like Tic Tacs. They're kind of big.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It is. That's surprisingly large.
They look like little larvae. It's but I'm sure inside there's probably like many little baby roaches.
Do they taste like Tic Tacs?
They say everyone has a price. I don't want to know what mine is. I don't want to know. It better be high. God damn it. It better be high.
There it is. Everyone has their limits.
Everyone has their limits.
I wouldn't eat them either, by the way.
$100, $200, $500.
No.
The cash is right there.
You're not even in the. No, it would have to be, I don't know, into six figures. Mm-hmm. Well, and the first digit wouldn't be no teeny tiny little one.
No. I wouldn't be able to do something with that money. It better be enough money for me to get an Nintendo
all that
Switch
money
with some good games or something.
All that money plus therapy.
Shit, yeah. Get a new car or something.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Nope.
Horrible.
Nope.
Horrible. By the way, the pest control over here in Houston, they'll say they can try to guarantee anyway that they'll get rid of most of these insects, but the one they can't guarantee are these roaches. They can't guarantee that they can get rid of them because they can't. You can't guarantee that. And what we're finding out here is that they're becoming immune to the spray.
Yeah. Aren't there traps Aren't there roach traps, roach hotels that you can?
I know there's roach hotels. I've probably been in many of them.
I meant for the roach.
Man, some places are so bad out here. I went to this one trailer. I'm not gonna say the family and all that, but let's just say it's for my job, right? I went to one trailer, and from the outside, you can see roaches on the front door. It's like, you motherfucker. You open the front door, roaches fall out onto you. There's a part I was walking around in the house, and there was roaches on my shirt. I was like, okay, yeah, that's...
No.
That's not be in this house.
We're going to talk outside.
I'm just like... and that was a trailer. That was like an old, worn-down trailer, right? Like, when I say worn down, I mean like weathered by like rain and flood and stuff. Ooh, man.
So let me guess. Drugs might have been involved.
Drugs, yes. Just procrastination, just letting things just get out of control because of drugs and.
Because of drugs.
Dude, there was a.
Don't do drugs, kids, unless you want to live with roaches.
My first contact with that family, I was sniffing around. I was like, y'all smell that? They're like, smell what? It smells like there's a dead possum around here. Yeah, I bet you under that junk somewhere there's a dead possum. I'll tell you what.
God.
And because this is my job, I'd let you know this much. The kids, I was like, do you guys have like a relative they can like stay the night at right now? Because they need to stay the night there where you guys get this cleaned up real fast, okay? just can y'all do that? Okay. All right, they did that. And I was like, okay, I want that smell to go away. I'll give you a day. I'll come back, and I want that smell to be gone. And let's do something about these roaches. Bomb the house. Get as much of those roach bombs you can, and just bomb the whole fucking thing. The whole thing. They did it.
Don't they... Yeah. Don't you have to, don't they depend on food sources? Like, leaving food that they can get into?
They do. They do depend on food. Which I'll say this about that family. At least everything was in airtight containers. All the food was in, airtight containers.
Oh, that's something. That's something.
Yes. There was that. Gross. Okay.
We had a smell of death in our kitchen one time several years ago, and oh shit, a mouse died under the house or something, right? Or a rat or a squirrel or something died in the crawl space, and it was really pretty much just in the kitchen that we could smell it. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't locate it. And we called a pest control guy, and he went crawling all around. And he goes, "Man, I can sure smell it, but I can't find anything." Mm-hmm. And so we had to just put up with it for 2 weeks. And in the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
And yeah, in the kitchen. And let me tell you, I'll tell you a one don't and one do. If you ever get in a situation like that, don't get air fresheners. Don't get, perfumey, these Glade plugins and shit like that, because you get a cinnamon air freshener plug-in, and what you end up with is the smell of death and cinnamon. It does not minimize it in any way. It just mixes with it.
Sounds like a typo negative song, Death and Cinnamon. Okay.
But there is one effective thing. There is one thing that is effective, however, that we found out. Thank you, Internet. And that is coffee grounds in a frying pan on the stove.
All right. So if you want to hide the smell of death in your house, there you go.
Yes. There you go. And it works completely. I mean, all you smell pretty much is the coffee grounds. You just put it on low heat. You just make it warm up. And, there's a reason why if you go to a fragrance counter, you know what that is, right? Mm-hmm. You go to a fragrance counter and you're going to pick out a new perfume for somebody. one of the things
I do
they
this all
have.
the time, guys. I get the perfume for me.
You've been using it to mask the smell of death, and let me tell you, you got to stop that.
Well, the last name like Deadman. Sorry, that was horrible.
So what they do is, because if you smell one, you can't just go around and smell the next one, because you'll still smell some of the old one. You need like the equivalent of a palate cleanser for the nose, and they use coffee beans for that. And they'll have a little dish of coffee beans, and so you smell one perfume, and then you smell the coffee, and then you can smell the next one, and it'll be not contaminated by the first one.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, which is one of the reasons why people think that coffee grounds can mask the smell of drugs to drug sniffing dogs. But the problem is that it would work for people, but dogs are not people.
No, they're not.
And
totally
you cannot hide the drugs from the dogs.
No,
nothing you can do will hide the smell of the drugs from the dogs. So just give up that idea.
All right.
Oh, it turned out that smell of death was a dead raccoon under the deck.
Oh shit! That's my next question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that family I was talking about, that's what they said. They said it was actually a dead cat. It was a dead cat in their front yard. I was like, well, there you go, man. I'm glad you got rid of that. It smells a lot better here. But it's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Okay, what's the next story?
Next story. Man accused of feeding meth to a tax squirrel.
Okay. What?
Now I gotta. This has to be a Florida man, right?
I would think so.
Alabama.
Alabama.
A man accused by police of feeding methamphetamines to his pet squirrel to make him an attack squirrel has been arrested. Police officers in Alabama had been looking for Mickey Polk for nearly 2 weeks. Polk, who had been hiding in a hotel, was arrested on Thursday after he attempted to flee from drug investigators on a stolen motorcycle, according to police, and he crashed into it. Blah, 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 blah.
Okay, wait. I'm trying to follow this.
Okay. And narcotics investigators executed a search warrant that yielded meth, drug paraphernalia, body armor, and a squirrel.
Okay, so he's on the run from police. He's hiding out in this hotel, this drug motel, and he's feeding a squirrel meth. He's trying to train an attack squirrel. Like, what's his plan here?
Yeah,
to unleash it on the police when they try to get him, like a Pokemon or something. Like, there you go, squirrel, meth squirrel, go get him.
Yeah. Prior to the search warrant, investigators were informed that Mickey Polk kept a, quote, attack squirrel inside his apartment, and that Polk fed the squirrel meth to keep it aggressive.
Oh, damn. So that's the secret.
Well, the problem with attack squirrels is that, they're gonna just be aggressive to everybody. They're hard to control,
Well, hold on. If you're on meth too with the squirrel, there's like, telepathy or something, right? Can't you send signals?
That would be LSD, I think.
Oh.
Or mushrooms.
Oh. Well, maybe
more likely.
Maybe he raised the squirrel since a baby, so there's a bond. So even the methed out squirrel knows, oh, this is my daddy. Now I gotta attack him.
Maybe he was the only one that would not attack.
Huh.
The good news is Rocky the attack squirrel, I made up that name.
Rocket.
Was successfully released into the wild. They do not say if you had to go to rehab first.
And is he still on meth? I mean, is he?
Well, he's gonna have to find it on his own now.
Oh shit! He's gonna be hanging out at that hotel. He's gonna go back to that place.
Yeah, yeah. He's gonna start. He's gonna start mugging people for drug money.
Yep.
It's not gonna go well. The poor guy.
This was in Alabama, right? So
yes,
we should, if it makes sense, right? We should hear about an increase of squirrel attacks at parks. Now,
yes.
The squirrels just jumping people for their McDonald's or whatever food they have with them. They'd be like, "Is it rabid? No, it's just meth. It's just another meth squirrel." You know.
Yeah, and the problem with it being meth is, poor squirrel doesn't even have the skills to like be a contract assassin or anything. He's just freaked out meth squirrel.
Yep, that's all it is. Freaked out meth squirrel. But what if it's gonna rot its teeth? Does it rot the like?
Well, isn't that only if you smoke it?
It wasn't smoking it. It was eating the rock. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think it's smoking. I think it is.
So he might be okay there.
I think he might be, but he'll probably still suck your dick for $20 in the park.
And a bag full of peanut M&Ms.
Yes. Oh man, this is crazy. Oh, well, that's a wild story, and it wasn't from Florida for once.
Yeah, how weird is that? I guess weird people exist, I don't know, outside of Florida.
Interesting.
Oh man.
I know about some freaky stuff going on in Texas as well. Apparently, a Texas woman was banned from Walmart for eating half of a cake, and trying to get trying to buy the cake half off. So she ate half.
Because it was half gone.
Yeah, half gone. I mean, they got the police involved in that stuff. They didn't arrest her or anything. They just banned her from the store. Just silly stuff. But the thing that tops that, and I think might be runner-up with the squirrel, is apparently, also in Texas, also at a Walmart, there's this woman, and I have her picture. Let me pull it up. Real fast on the screen here. She was riding around on an electric scooter or an electric cart, which isn't necessarily bad, but she was drunk off her ass, drinking wine from a Pringles can. So
on a cart inside of Walmart?
Outside, like in the parking lot area. Like she was just riding around. Like I don't know why. She was just driving around in the cart.
Wow.
Drunk off her ass. Drinking booze, drinking wine out of a Pringles can. Now, I've seen these before. Apparently, there are I guess, flasks that look like Pringle cans.
Really?
Yeah, they exist. Let me see
what?
I'm right here. Yeah, they are little container. I mean, they'll hold a whole bottle. You can put a whole bottle in there. I don't know if it enhances the flavor or anything. I don't know if you're getting that nacho cheese or the salt and vinegar in there. It's just.
So that's like, you can't even use that to sneak booze into a concert or anything because they don't want you to bring food either.
No. You would just be able to sneak that into a Walmart maybe because I don't think Walmart would even care if you brought a Pringles can
in.
Yeah, they wouldn't care. They don't even care what you wear. You can be in your pajamas or halfway naked almost. They don't care. What they care about is you being drunk off your ass, riding around on an electric cart.
Yeah.
That's what they care about. That's what they care about.
So there is, there is another story. I got to look it up.
All right.
Yeah, here it is. 57 electric scooters and bikes pulled from Portland's Willamette River. 57.
57.
57.
Why would they all be?
Divers found.
They're just dunked in the river.
Yes.
Wow.
57 of these fuckers. You know, the Lime bikes and the little electric scooters and shit like that.
Wait a second.
57 of them dumped in the same spot in the river.
Wait a second. Have you ever seen Trailer Park Boys?
No.
Okay. It's a pretty interesting show. I find it hilarious. But there was a scam that they would do where they would just take all the shopping carts and dump it into a river, dump it down the ravine or whatever. And on the other side, the guy would take all the carts and I guess the idea is to resell them or something for scraps. Would they try to do that? And were they trying to like do something with these carts, these scooters,
They
these
don't.
bikes?
Yeah, they don't. They don't really know why they were dumped in the river, and they're all dumped. So they found them. The police divers were conducting a training exercise, and then they ran across this pile of scooters and bikes in the river during their exercise.
Oh, that sounds pretty normal for running a training exercise. Oh, training exercise. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Training.
Okay.
And yeah, so somebody didn't know what to. Were they all? Here's the thing: they couldn't all be stolen and dumped, because why would they all be dumped in the same spot, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like an insurance scam to me.
You know what? That's a pretty good idea.
It sounds like whoever. Yeah. Oh my gosh, we had all of these stolen. Yeah, that's right. They were stolen. That's the ticket.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. Because if it was someone like some employee or someone else trying to steal them, like in that weird plot that I mentioned in Trailer Park Boys, there would be someone on the other side picking them out of the river and doing whatever with them. But you don't have that. They're just being dumped for trash in that one spot.
Exactly.
Yeah. Holy hell. 57 electric scooters and bicycles. That's a pretty high number.
Yeah. Well, it's weird, but it's not as weird as the severed feet that show up on the beaches up here.
Well, that's because
I'm sure you heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Where are they from? Like, what's going on? Who's
What,
gonna
the feet?
Yeah, the feet. Oh, people getting eaten, like fish eating dead bodies or something, or decomposition.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are a couple of cases that are known to be suicides, or drownings of people that they were able to identify. But the vast majority. So here's what's weird about this. So they all are wearing sneakers.
Okay.
And that's what allows them to, survive the ocean and the saltwater environments around here, and float, and then wash up on beaches. And we're talking about more than a dozen cases. So this is weirdness, and there's no real answer on where these are coming from and why.
From I don't know, coming from another country, an island. I don't.
Yeah. Could they have survived long enough to cross the ocean? Who knows?
Yeah, a ship sunk or something. I don't know.
Well, it's not. these cases of they have shown up, in a fairly dispersed area over, a decade. So it's not like they just all appeared all at once. But it is still a very bizarre thing to have feet get found on the beach.
I'm telling you, man, it's those sharks. It's the fucking sharks, man. They tell you,
Yeah,
don't worry
but
about
where's the
sharks.
rest of them? Where's the rest of the people?
It's the mega sharks. It's a shark.
Oh, by the way, there's never been a pair of feet found. Only singles.
Yeah, and some sort of crazy hybrid or something, like shark octopus or something. It just brings them in and eats them, devours them, but leaves the shoe.
Kraken.
Discards that. Who's going to eat that? A kraken. A shark kraken.
Right? Yeah, and it doesn't like synthetic fibers.
No, not at all. It has taste. It has taste.
Yeah,
as it should. Yeah. I don't know. Got to explore that. That could be a new segment for the Deadman Stone podcast, maybe. Exploring different weird phenomenon. Strange disappearances.
Unexplained.
Yeah, the unexplained. I like that. Well, I think we could wrap this up here. Kind of at the end here. Had a good time talking with Miss Lee Beard. Good guest.
She was great. She was a great guest.
It was. Definitely could tune into the Nick Ricetta stream. Catch what they're talking about over there. Yeah, but definitely enjoyed also covering the stories we talked about here. Had a good time. If you made it this far,
me too.
If you made it this far, please, your support. We appreciate that. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, and y'all take it easy.
Get feeling better, Becky.